जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन भज जनरञ्जना यशोदनन्दन भज जनरञ्जना यमुनातीरावनचारी नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपदाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे शून्यवादी Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva Jaya Sivadamayi. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Gurudev, 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 Jai Jai Gurudev. श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की, सीतालाल नृसिंहदेव भगवान की, निताई गौ सुंदर की, पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Studying from Kantrasri Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3rd, which is entitled as the Status Quo, Chapter number 33, which is entitled as Activities of Kapila, Lord Kapil Dev. Today text number is 14. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Abhikshan vagaha kapishan, abhikshana vagaha kapisan, abhiksharavagaha kapisan, jatilan kutilalakan, jatilan kutilalakan, atmanam chogara tapasa, atmanam chogra tapasa, vibhrati chirnam krisham, बिभ्रति चिरिनं कृशम् अभिक्षरावगाह कपिशान् जटिलान् कुटिलालकान् आत्मानं चोग्र तपसा बिभ्रति चिरिनं कृशम् अभिक्षरावगाह कपिशान् जटिलान् कुटिलालकान् आत्मानं चोग्र तपसा बिभ्रति चिरिनं कृशम् अभिक्षरावगाह कपिशान् जटिलान् कुटिलालकान् आत्मानं चोग्र तपसा बिभ्रति चिरिनं कृशम्. Word for word meaning. Avikshana, again and again. Avagaha, by bathing. Kapishan, grey. Jatilan, matted. Kutila, curled. Alakan, hair. Atmanam, her body. Cha, and Ugra Tapsa, by severe austerities. Vibhrati, became. Chirinam, clothed in rags. Chiram, thin. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. She began to bath 3 times daily, and thus her curly black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Once again, she began to bath 3 times daily, and thus her curling black hair gradually became grey. Due to austerity, her body gradually became thin, and she wore old garments. Purport. In the practice of yogi, brahmachari, vanaprastha and sannyasa, to bath at least 3 times a daily, early in the morning, during noon, and in the evening. The practice of these principles are strictly followed even by some grahasthas, especially brahmanas, who are elevated in spiritual consciousness. Devhuti was a king's daughter and almost a king's wife also. Although Kardamuni was not a king, by his yogic mystic power he accommodated Devhuti very comfortable in a nice palace with maidservants and all opulence. But since she had learned austerity even in the presence of her husband, there was no difficulty for her to be austere. Still, because her body underwent severe austerities after the departure of her husband and son, she became thin. To be too fat is not very good for spiritual advanced life. Rather, one should reduce because if one becomes fat, it is an impediment to progress in spiritual understanding. One should be careful not to eat too much, sleep too much, or remain in a comfortable position. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. These are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, or hatha yoga. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. See, Namo Maha. Let it offer, no problem. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratuse Namaha. Vandeham Sri Guru Sutpadakamanam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagan Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is saying that Yajna, Dana and Tapa, sacrifice, charity and penance should never be given up. These things even purify the great sages, Bhavanan, who are already very pure. They become even more purer by practicing, by Yajna, Dana and Tapa. It should never be given up. So, it is mandatory for a conditioned soul to voluntarily accept some type of austerity, if at all we want to progress in spiritual life. Even in material life, we see that a person wants to do very good in academics. He goes through many hardships, voluntarily restrained from sometimes playing which he likes so much. It is also one type of austerity. Or going to spending more time on watching television or spending time with friends. He spends more time spending more time in studies, become more regulated in order to he can cover the portion, he can understand this properly, write the exam so that he can get good marks. And for the students, we can see, even we see they are sportsmen, they work so hard. The austerities, if we see, to achieve a material accomplishment, we will find that we are doing nothing. Though we are taking up spiritual life very seriously, there is so much hard work they do. To get a medal for a swimming, or to be an athlete, or even a cricketer, not to joke. As the people have to take up so much austerity to become even materially successful. For the spiritual life, it is even more compulsory that we should take some sort of austerities. All the ashrams, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas, there is austerity required. Basic austerities is following 4 regulatory principles. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. It has become very big austerity actually in Kali Yuga. If you say people that no meat eating, then immediately they will say what you are saying. No meat eating, you cannot be without meat eating. Many people, it is a big austerity for them, to restrain them to not eat whole week. And then one Sunday they just cannot control. And wherever we go, even for going for book distribution, every day the stinking smell comes from cooking up meat. Such a big austerity. No gambling. People are so much used to invest, trade in the stock market. In so many ways, people speculating and having gambling. No illicit sex, and no intoxication. Prabhupada, God brothers were sent by his guru, spiritual master Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and they went to London to preach, to spread Krishna consciousness much before Prabhupada left. So they met one Viceroy, Lord, the important person, and he expressed his desire that he wants to become a Brahmana. And they were saying, okay, it's not a problem, but we can train you. You should do these 4 things first. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. Immediately, as soon as he said, impossible. It is not possible. So you see, in modern time, these are all basic things. In Vedic literature, actually this is not stressed. It's supposed to be done. As a human being, one is supposed to do this. If he is not a human being, he will indulge into all sorts of things because he doesn't understand the value of human life. So he will spoil his opportunity by doing all these things. Just live like an animal. It's called Dvipadapasu, two-legged animals. It's not at all understanding that this human life is so rare, exclusive opportunity for oneself to break the cycle of birth and death, samsara sagarat, can come out of this ocean of material miseries just by cultivating spiritual knowledge, by purifying one's existence. And it's not possible if we not follow these four regulatory principles. So in Vedic culture, it was by default everybody was practicing this. During Parikshit Maharaj's time, Parikshit Maharaj was traveling on the globe. He was a ruling emperor and he wanted to make sure that everything is proper in his kingdom. He was not like armchair politicians of modern days who talks much and do nothing. He was riding his chariot and he was marching on the whole globe to make sure that everything is fine. And he encountered the Kali Purusha, the personification of this age. He was looking like a Yamana, Maleksha. And he was doing a horrible thing. He has already broken the 3 legs of a bull and he was beating both cow and bull together. And they were helplessly crying. And this came into sight of Parikshit Maharaj and he became extremely angry. Immediately took out of his sword and he was ready to kill this person. Immediately he was ready to kill. But he just stopped himself because he used to give a judgment in the emperor, and he asked them, "Who are you? Why you are doing such an heinous work?" Kali Purusha understood the power of Parikshit Maharaj. He became very diplomatic. Immediately he fell on his lotus feet and surrendered. Surrender, I am surrendering to you. Please protect me. I am also your citizen. Parikshit Maharaj now saw this person is surrendering as a principles, a Kshatriya principles. He is not supposed to kill him now. So he said that how dare you do such activities in my presence? And he explained this. I am Kali Yuga, personification of this age, and this is what will happen in this age. I am also, this is the time for me to come. There is a cycle of time cycle, Satyuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga and Kali Yuga. So as long as Lord Krishna was present in this planet, Kali has no opportunity to enter. But as soon as the Lord left from here or disappeared, immediately Kali Yuga started his activities. And then only he met with Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj said, all right, you can go to these 4 places. Wherever there is a meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex and gambling, you go and stay there and don't do anything else. And Kali Purusha has already scanned all these things and he could never find any place such things happening during when Parikshit Maharaj was ruling. It was just 5,000 years before. Not even single place. And he immediately said, my Lord, where is such place in this whole earth when you are ruling? There is no such place. So you have been very kind enough for me to allot these places, but practically I have no place to stay. So please give me shelter. Then Parikshit Maharaj thought for some time, and being very intelligent and sharp, he cheated Kali Purusha. He said, you can go and stay in the court. Then Kali Yuga got the opportunity to stay in the court. And that's how the Kali Yuga started spreading its influence. So gold is considered also, wherever there is a gold, access wealth, actually these things are becomes easily facilitated. Meat eating, intoxication, gambling. Wherever people are having a whole, our economy is now become falsely situated on the false stack of gold. And we see that how therefore there are so many unwanted things are happening. In Vedic lifestyle, it was not like this. People were living a very simple life, though they were very rich, because their thing was their economy was not based on the paper currency. They were having the exchange, so everybody was working hard enough to survive, and they were very happy. So we see this basic austerity to follow these four regulatory principles. We all supposed to follow this without asking. Apart from this, Vedic culture teaches that one should be very clean. Here it is said that Devhuti, she was taking bath daily 3 times, morning, afternoon and evening. So just by taking bath, one comes out of the mode of ignorance and passion, gets into mode of goodness, and which is very conducive for one's spiritual progress. We see that when we get up early in the morning, we don't want to actually come out of the bed, or we don't want to do anything, we feel very dull. And we go and take a bath, do a nitya karma, take bath, and then we feel fresh. At that time actually we want to do some worship. So taking bath is a sign of a cleanliness. It's not only cleans the external body, which is essential, it also cleanses the mind. One's mind becomes more peaceful by taking bath. In Vedic culture, it was mandatory that people take bath at least 3 times, morning, afternoon and evening. And that, at that time only people perform 3 sandhyas, offer their prayers to Guru and Krishna. So here we see that how devotees, he was so strict in following this. So strict she was in following this. She was a princess, not princess of one small kingdom. She was born to Swambhu Manu, and Swambhu Manu was ruling the whole entire Bhumandala. Our understanding of Bhumandala is very insignificant. Modern astronomy, whatever we understand, is very insignificant. It's explained in Srimad Bhagavatam what is the Bhumandala. It's they are all 7 islands, whole spreaded through the half of the universe, one full layer. It's quite big. And Swambhu Manu was he was ruling all this, and she was a daughter of Swambhu Manu, and she was married to Kardama Muni. Prabhupada is writing, and she was provided even much more opulent life by Kardama Muni by his mystic power. Kardama Muni created such a wonderful spaceship. It was like a big city filled with all sorts of facilities beyond our imagination. And there she provided devotee with so many qualified maidservants, thousands of maidservants to attend to her. And he took devotee for a ride to all the important places, excellent places in the whole universe, all different planetary systems, from Bhur Loka, Swarg Loka, and beyond. He went everywhere. And we can see that she was used to have a very royal life, but when her husband and son left, she became very serious, and that time she took her spiritual life even more seriously. And she also similarly was following austerities. So it is embedded in Vedic lifestyle that people focus on their spiritual advancement. Understanding this human life is very, very rare. They just can't be without practice, spiritual practice. We can see that everybody here in this material world is suffering. All of us, we want to be happy. Nobody can say that I don't want to be happy. Our whole effort is to become happy. Somehow or other become happy. We are working so hard. But hardly people are happy. Everyone is suffering. There is an inbuilt suffering which has everyone has to go through. No one wants that, but no one can avoid this. This is Janma Mityu Jara Vyadhi. Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, Janma Mityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Dosanu Darsanam. We take birth, it is suffering, great suffering. Though we have forgotten the experience, but it's a great suffering. Mother gives birth, she goes through the labor pain. What about the child? See, he suffers even 1,000 times more. It's described in Srimad Bhagavatam that the embryo in the womb, when it's developing, has got consciousness, faints again and again, loses his consciousness because of extreme suffering inside the womb. When it comes out from the womb also, it's great suffering. And after coming out also, there is a suffering. So Janma is a very suffering process, taking birth. Though we all celebrate happy birthday, but there is nothing happy about this. It's suffering birthday only. Then people grow and fall sick. Everyone falls sick. As you can see in COVID time, people were just grasping, to take breath. Just to take breath, they were struggling hard. So many people passed away. So one after another, people are, and different types of diseases are coming. Now COVID, before so many deadly diseases has come in the present time. Though we are medically becoming more and more advanced, but even the nature is becoming even more cruel. So many deadly diseases. People died just like that. There is no cure. So many types of cancers, so many different types of diseases. So this is not suffering. Surely it is suffering. We can say in a family, a person is just sick, the whole family get affected. The person also suffering, and along with that, everybody is suffering. So Janma, Jara, then Janma, Vyadhi and Jara, becoming old. Becoming old. The person who becomes old only can understand this. Once one Maharaj came to a temple and he was asking that, can you understand that how Srila Prabhupada started this movement, with what difficulty? At the age of 70, Srila Prabhupada left from here. While he went, he didn't have money, he just begged some money, and actually he got a ticket from the ship, from the seas, and he was traveling with that, and he got 2 massive heart attacks while going. Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Nitai Gausundar ki, Patit Pavan Prabhupada ki jai. And when Prabhupada reached also America, it was a great suffering because it was a very cold place, and for a person who just recovered from the heart attack, and elderly person, is very difficult. And Prabhupada was on his own. Everything he has to do on his own. There is no person whom he know or who will be assisting him. He was just on his own. He has to find out his where is going to stay, what is going to eat. There's nothing much available also. Such a great difficulty Prabhupada started this movement. So we said all that, we know this, we have already did this. Actually we cannot say that we know, but we feel that that's what Prabhupada would have gone through. Then Maharaj said, no, can never understand this. You will only start understanding when you become old. When person becomes old, what he goes through, he only knows. We cannot know what pain and pleasure others are going. So he said that when you become old, then only will you start appreciating it as at one stage, 70 years old man, how he makes such decision to leave all alone, go to West and selflessly start helping people to practice Krishna consciousness. People are not at all interested. It said that when they yelled and shouted on Srila Prabhupada, he was pushed out from the line in the bathroom. And so many hardship he met. There was no small thing being an old. He took all these austerities for others. For personally, he did not needed to do all these things. He was living in Vrindavan. That is a very conducive place to practice his spiritual life. But he took these austerities for the welfare of others. So we see this old age is such a suffering. All the joints in the body starts giving pain. Eyes becomes, we can't see properly. Heart becomes hearing. It becomes very difficult. So similarly, death is also great suffering. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, everyone has to go through. So how we can say we can be happy here? Then three tapa. People have to go through some bodily discomforts or mental discomforts, adi, vyadi. Illness, physical illness and mental illness. Now mental illness has become more and more prominent in this Kali Yuga. Earlier people were not so mentally sick, but now we see that people are more mentally sick than physically sick. Depression has become very common. In my childhood days, I never believed that something can be like depression. But now we can see that many people are actually the victim of depression. So then problems caused by other living entities. Yes, we see our neighbor causes problem. Even family members, they cause trouble. In the workplace, the colleague or boss will cause trouble. There's so many other living entities, snakes or mosquitoes or dog or cat, so many things, they create disturbances. So there's so many ways to suffer actually. Nobody can avoid this. And on top of all this, there's so many natural calamities. There was tsunami in 2005 when I was in college. And in the morning we got the news, 5 lakh people passed away in one night in very short time. 5 lakh people just washed inside the sea. 5 lakh people. There are so many calamities. We can see that Chennai went through so much of storm and heavy rain. Like that, there are so many calamities, natural calamities. So no one can be happy in this world. This is very well understood by a person with little intelligence. So in Vedic culture, our lifestyle was always promoting that we should get out of this place, which is source of miseries. We actually not entitled to suffer like this. We are Sachidananda, as a soul, we should be experiencing eternal happiness and life filled with knowledge. So Sachidananda, our position is Sachidananda Swarupa. So therefore it was promoted from very beginning people to practice spiritual life, to practice austerity. It was in part of all the ashrams, but especially it is mentioned that Vanaprastha, the person who is taking his spiritual life more seriously, just coming out of the family life and taking his spiritual life more seriously, taking a Vanaprastha ashram, is supposed to become more austere. Of course, a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, especially brahmacharis and sannyasis, they all have to go through the austerities, but still it was stressed that a person who is taking vanaprastha should be ready to take more austerities. Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita that Yukta Ahara Viharasya Yukta Cheshtasya Karmasu Yukta Swapna Avabodhasya Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. A person who is practicing spiritual life, is practicing yoga, should make balance in eating, sleeping and recreation. Prabhupada is writing here that if you want to progress spiritually, we should not eat too much and we should not sleep too much. We should voluntarily control eating and sleeping. So that is austerity we have to actually take. Because when we eat too much, then we have to sleep too much, and then our time is wasted, which we would have used in practicing Krishna consciousness. Voluntarily accepting some penances and difficulties, one should take less food and less sleep. These are the procedures for practicing any kind of yoga, whether Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga or Hatha Yoga. So, actually the austerity which we practice gives us internal happiness. If we do sense gratification, then we see that while doing sense gratification we may feel happy. But as soon as sense gratification is done, we will become dissatisfied. Like people go and watch movies, when the movie is over they are not satisfied. We eat so much and after eating is finished we are dissatisfied. But the penance austerity which we perform, while performing it may be difficult, but we become more satisfied by practicing this austerity. Why we become more satisfied? Because we understand that we have progressed a step ahead, step more in our goal of life. Like a student, he is studying hard. When he covers one portion, he becomes satisfied. Oh, one portion is over, one module is over. Now 3 modules only I have to study. One module is over, so he is satisfied. But if you have not studied and slept or went for playing, then after some time you will be feeling so much depressed that now I have not studied even one module. So similarly, when we are practicing austerities, then we actually develop attraction for Krishna. Our spiritual life becomes more smooth by performing austerity. So we become satisfied. So this actually gives satisfaction. Austerity gives satisfaction. And therefore people continue performing austerity. You see that how devotee she has become very thin. Her body gradually became thin. And she wore cold garments. If there is no satisfaction, how one can continue doing this? Why voluntarily person will eat less, or he will take bath 3 times if there is no pleasure, no satisfaction. So there is satisfaction which is coming, which is higher. मंत्रा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, पतित पावन श्री प्रभुपाद की जय।